Good evening, everyone, to tonight's episode of Profound States. Tonight we have a very special guest, Jacquelin Smith. She is a certified hypnosis practitioner, an international star being, an animal communicator, a light linguist, and an author who lives in Columbus, Ohio. She's been communicating with star beings, interdimensional beings, and animals since early childhood. She has done private consults and taught classes for more than 40 years. She communicates with a wide variety of star races, including Tall White Zeta Masters, Mantis beings, Arcturians, Sirians, Zetas, Venusians, Dolphin and Whale beings, Celestials, and many others. I heard it was like 80 from your previous show. I guess that's a good enough introduction. So welcome, a very special welcome, Jacquelin. How are you this evening?
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate your having me on your show, and I'm looking forward to us talking about all this.
Well, it's interesting because I had too much light or not enough light. Let me turn on my other light. There we go. There, now I got proper lighting. Finally, I have proper lighting.
Okay.
All right. I might have to edit some of this, but that's okay. So, where do we start? God, you got so much knowledge and background. It's hard to decide where to start. So, why don't we try doing what I usually do, and that is go in chronological order. So, long before you're a hypnotherapist, you were a what was the very first interesting thing that happened in your whole life?
Well, I've been a star being my whole life, and I even knew when I was in the crib. My star families were there supporting me and adjusting to Earth. And so, as I went throughout my life, I became more and more conscious of my memories and what had happened and all of that. But starting at the age of 3, I was taken aboard the starships, starting at 3 years old. And I loved it.
Pretty amazing at that age.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I loved being on the ship. I think I should probably mention, in terms of being a hybrid, that when my mother was pregnant with me, they took her on the ship and injected me with, I call it a cocktail of 7 different kinds of DNA of different races. And so that's why I call myself a hybrid, because within my DNA, in that I have these different, energies of the star beings. So I was genetically enhanced. In the larger sense, everyone is a hybrid, everyone's a star seed, but I call myself a hybrid since I was genetically altered or enhanced.
So how did you find out about these 7, what were they, 7 different?
7 different star races.
Oh, so it was a DNA that had been spliced together, however they do it.
They injected it into me when I was in the womb.
But what I'm saying is, before they injected it, they had already spliced the DNA together of the 7 different races prior to injecting it in you.
Correct, yeah.
And so it'd be interesting to find out what does an injection of DNA do? I mean, what is that? I mean,
it genetically altered me. And the intention was, being a hybrid, was to come to Earth and to kind of be a bridge between the star beings and humanity, because I can come from both points of view.
So when do you think disclosure, open disclosure, where they land, all that stuff, the actual final beginning of masses of humans meeting all at one time, where one race, at least, I've heard rumors, I hear different rumors from different people, and
Sure.
And you got any idea of a time frame?
I just I think there, truths that are being spoken about it, and mixed truths that are being spoken about it. And my feeling is we are the disclosure. We are all from the stars. And to me, that's the most relevant point. I don't see any ships landing on the White House lawn or anything like that. That's not going to happen.
Well, if they're going to land, they're going to land at somewhere, sometime. I mean, not land. They've landed a long time ago, but my point is they have to, when it becomes so open, where they land, where it's like broadcast across the world, that sort of thing, it becomes a little different. So what did they do with you on the ship when you were 3? Do you know? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember. I had a lot of wonderful experiences, and so I love being on the ship because the atmosphere is one of unconditional love from the star beings who I was with. I call them my star parents, the Tall White Zeta Masters, not to be confused with the tall whites that Charles Hall talks about. This is a whole different lineage, and they all were incredibly loving with me. And I guess we could say I felt like I was in heaven when I was on the ship, because the energies are so high. And
do you know why they took you at that age? What the purpose was?
Well, they wanted this, they were like starting to train me. I don't like the word train, but teach me at age 3 about what my star lineage was, and to kind of get me prepared to do what I'm here to do on Earth. And I was in, we could call it night school, there were 8 of us who were on the ship many, many, many nights, and had the star beings were our teachers, and we learned through the years we used to create balls of light, and we would throw the balls of light back and forth, kind of like a baseball. And our group would sit either in a triangle configuration or like a semicircle. And so we could all communicate telepathically. There were some from other countries and some other children from other countries. And so they obviously spoke another language, but we could all telepathically communicate with each other. And
so you remember the very first time you communicated telepathically in your life? What was that, at the age of 3, or was that later?
Well, it was before then, because
before the age of 3.
Yeah, well, we all communicate telepathically. It's just that humans are not aware of it. They're just not very aware of it.
Okay, so
we're all linked telepathically. So coming in as a baby, they were communicating with me telepathically, and I was communicating with them.
before the age of 3.
Yes.
And okay, so go through any experiences you had early on that were that you wish to go through.
Sure. I mean, again, being on the ship was an amazing experiences, and I was often on the ship from age 3 up through 18, off and on. And I wasn't on the ship quite as much later on, but early on I was on the ship often. So it was this wonderful, they are my star family. And so again, learned many things in the night school circumstances that the star beings were teaching us all, so that when we went forward into fulfilling our purposes on Earth, we would really, really be prepared. And all these children are hybrid children. They were all genetically altered. And so they taught us how to create geometric structures with our minds, and then those geometric structures would appear in the air in all kinds of neon colors, but they would manifest.
So the Tall White Zeta Masters, they're tall grays, yes?
No, they're tall white. They're tall white.
The color is
they're shimmering white.
But I mean that when I say grays, I'm not saying they're gray colored. I'm saying
I know
they're the beings that we think of as the grays.
They have a mix of the Zeta in them. That's why they're called Tall White Zeta Masters, but they have the tall white race in them as well. So they're a mix of those two races.
But you consider yourself a Mantis hybrid, yes?
Well, I have the mix of 7 different star races, but I have a lot of Mantis in me.
So why do you consider yourself a Mantis? Okay, you got 7 different races.
Mm-hmm.
But you call yourself a Mantis hybrid, but you say the Tall White Zetas are your is your lineage, but you split it out 7 ways. So I'm not sure how you can come down on the Tall White. I guess the Tall White Zetas are the ones that took you, and the Mantis are the ones you identify with. How does that?
No, I identify with all of them.
All of them. Okay.
But Mantis, I'm in touch a lot with the Mantis beings. They're around me a lot, and so I have a close connection with them, but I have a very close connection also with the Tall White Zeta Masters. So a lot of people tell me I look Mantis and will think of me as a Mantis hybrid, but it's bigger, it's bigger than that.
Okay, so you've been a hypnotherapist for 20 years, yes?
Yeah, over 20 years, yeah. And
so of all the things you do for your clients, what do you do most often? What have you been asked to do more often than anything else for your hypnotherapy clients?
Okay, so I work with experiencers who want to remember their experiences. So I use a combination of the hypnotherapy, but also I'm just able to have their experiences and memories come through me. It's very natural for me to just know what has occurred from them, for them. And then I work with some, number of people, helping them to understand their star origin, what their original expression was when their soul first sparked off from the creator. So I do, my work is very diversified. So the hypnotherapy is like one aspect of it, but I work with a lot of people with star origin readings and working with experiencers to help them understand their experiences, and to work with them.
So in the people that you're referring to, you help them find out what star race they were originated from, where they were first, when they first got separated from source. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And what does that, just having that knowledge, is just like having a diamond or something. It's a piece of knowledge, but what does it do for them beyond just having the knowledge? What else? What other benefits do they get from having an understanding of their origin, of their first?
Well, it helps them understand that they have a family, that they have support from their star families. And I also give them frequencies where they can get in touch with their star families, and also frequencies where they can continue to be activated to remember, that star origin of who they truly are.
So once they have the knowledge of their their first star race that they are a part of, if they call upon that race, will that race show up for them?
Yes. Yeah, that's the intention, is to get them reconnected so they can actually have an ongoing relationship with their star family, and have that support and get to know themselves, to remember who they are. And with that star origin frequency, that runs through all of their lifetimes, because it's the soul's key star frequency.
So have you ever had a client who wanted a star origin who didn't have one?
No.
So everybody's got one?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We're all from stars or dimensions,
So go back. Okay, so you went on craft frequently, nightly, from the age of 3 to the age of 18, and you learned how to do various different things on the craft. You had children who are, you have had offspring that are Mantis or something else?
Well, I have hybrid children.
Are they all Mantis, or are they different?
No, they're different. And so what they do is they are able to take the DNA, and then they create from that hybrid children. And the intention of that is to help with the evolutionary process, not only for us, but for them, because then those children go into other star systems, meet other star beings, and the evolutionary process just goes on and on. I mean, they're learning just like we are. And so they took a strand of my hair and can create hybrid children because my DNA is in my hair. So it's not difficult for them to do that. And so years ago, they did an implant, but then they removed the hybrid child, the embryo, in a very gentle way with light. They just surrounded it with light and lifted it out. So when they came to me last time, they just took a strand of my hair and said, we're creating hybrid children from a strand of your hair, which is fine with me. and so that's how they can create many hybrid children. Like I have about 40 or so hybrid children.
And how many of them have you met?
Well, they come to me in a group and communicate with one voice with someone in the group. And so I haven't met all of them. 40's a lot. So, but I know a number of the key ones who I used to visit on the ship. So
are there any particular children you have that come to you more often?
Well, yeah, one of the key ones is I have a hybrid daughter who's here on Earth in another country, and she and I communicate telepathically, and they could integrate her on Earth. When on the ship, when I saw her, she looked just like me. And so they were able to integrate her here, where some other of my other hybrid children looked more like star beings, had the big black eyes or very little hair or had blue skin. And so, but she's the one they chose to integrate here on Earth. And that's happening more, and that's for the sake of evolution, to upgrade humanity and to help them evolve in consciousness and in in many ways.
So there's all kinds of questions I could ask you, like, what have you did say you had a hybrid that you actually had in your stomach or in your womb before it was removed once, yes?
Yeah, when I was younger, much younger.
And have you met this child yet?
At that point in time, no, because I was younger, and no, not that I recall.
So do you know what race it is?
No. No. Because the star beings, they create the hybrids they want to create for purposes that will help, from my perspective, benefit everybody. Again, their focus is on evolution, and they have programs. That's why they have a hybrid program, is to create these hybrid children so that they can help humanity evolve as well as their own races. So when I was on the ship, there were certain nursery rhymes and that I used to say. Sounds kind of silly, but they were very interested in that. And so what they did was they learned my nursery rhymes, and then they put that in to the genetic DNA with future hybrid children. So they're putting in that human element along with the star being element.
So your daughter that's in the other country, what are you okay with giving her name out?
Well, I talk about it in the book. Yeah, her name is Claire, and so
give us the name of your book.
It's actually Star Being in the Mirror.
There you go.
My journey is a hybrid.
And when did it come out?
It came out a little over a year ago.
And it's been well received?
Yes. Yeah, lots of people tell me it helps to helps them remember some of their memories, helps to awaken them, helps to expand their consciousness in terms of star beings and understanding more about, this whole area. People who have just seen, who have may seen the UFO may be interested in this book, because it does, I expand on my life's journey and go into detail about many, many things that have happened to me. And on the ship, there were the hybrid children. And our group of, when we were on the ship, we would get together with the hybrid children and play. So the hybrid children were teaching us about more about telepathy, more about being hybrid, and we were teaching them more about being human. So there was a little girl, I call her little hybrid girl, who I was close to, and she, her name was Jacquelin, and I would teach her how to hug. And we would hold hands like little girls do and swing their hands. And at one point she got sick. And by the way, the beings on the ship, the guardians who take care of the hybrid children, they just love the hybrid children and are very good to them. They're very special. So anyway, when Jacquelin got sick, she had to leave her body. So they did a ceremony in a very conscious way. So she was conscious when she left her body. And then she's the one who later became my daughter, Claire, as my hybrid daughter.
So because of her illness, she had to leave her original body, and then,
right.
And then she reincarnated as your daughter.
Yeah, yeah.
And so have you ever had an you're talking about leaving one body that's sick, terminally sick, and going into another one. Have you ever had an out-of-body experience or anything like that?
Well, that's just natural for me. I'm in and out. I used to be in and out all the time, and I'm much more grounded now than when I was younger. But I'm on the ships off and on, doing work on the ships, doing healing work on the ships at night, and sometimes traveling into other dimensions, meeting other star beings usually.
So I had another lady that I interviewed down in Australia, and she said that, I'm trying to think of her name, but
Judy?
She said that.
Judy Carroll?
Yes, your friend.
Yeah, she and I are good friends.
She said that sometimes when she's on the ships, she's in human form, and sometimes she's in her other form, the alien, her form from the other race. Is that the same with you? Are you sometimes in your human form and sometimes in the other form of your others?
Yeah, I just shapeshift into that other form with being on the ship.
And what do you do? What do you do on the ships a lot? What's your biggest thing that you do most often on the ships?
Healing work, working with
healing as in energy work? Energy healing? What type of healing? Energy?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Energy, and just doing healing work with sometimes humans on the ship or other species on the ship. It just whatever is needed, and so when that happens, I just shift into whatever form is appropriate at the time.
So when you say you shapeshift, does that mean you're in a human form, and then you shift into your alien form from there?
From my ET form, yeah, into an ET form, and yeah, I might be in my Mantis form, or I might be in my Tall White Zeta form, or my Arcturian Zeta form.
So how many other selves do you have?
Well, there's
Total.
seven. There's seven different kinds of DNA that they put in me from different races.
So you can shift into each of those, each being, each one of those seven races, you can shift into any of them.
Yes.
Or should I say, you have other selves which are of that race.
Yeah. And I kind of consider them multidimensional selves.
Right.
Yeah, multidimensional selves. They're all from, yeah, I think that's the better way to a good way to describe it. When some people might think of me as a blended soul,
So how do you choose which other self to inhabit? I mean, could these other selves, do they all exist simultaneously, or do you shift, or do you choose another one and you go into that and there's only one of you? But in other words, while you're here, is the other aspects of you, the other seven aspects, are they up there while you're here, or is it one being?
No, they can be. Yeah. Yeah, since we're multidimensional, yes, they can be in other places and spaces doing other work, but it's all part of my soul.
So when you're up on the ship, are you still on the physical plane, or have you moved into the astral plane?
It's hard to describe, actually, because I don't think of it as really as, it's not the physical plane, it's not the astral plane either, but it's like there's a density to it. It's mostly etheric, but there is a kind of density to it. And again, it's very difficult to find words for all of this.
Well, okay, so when Starcraft or ET craft, or whatever you wish to call them, these very advanced craft, when they go from A to B, from location A to location B, are they going into a different density and then coming back into this density? Because people wonder, are the aliens from other dimensions, or are they from this dimension, the physical plane? And if so, how do they get from, so many light years away to here, that sort of thing. So I'm wondering if the way they travel has to do with not necessarily going from the physical plane into the astral plane and back to this plane, if it's more like changing density from this density into a different density, changing the structure of what they are into this other density. And then once they get over there, then they can decide any place in the physical realm they want to come out at, that sort of thing. Do you understand how they travel as far as?
Well, yeah, in terms of, they are they're one with the ship, they're linked telepathically. And when the star beings set their intention, they can really be wherever they want to be. And so they do have the ability to move through, I'm going to call it dimensions, or really it's frequencies. because that's what dimensions are frequencies, that they can move through these different frequencies at a speed that we can't even imagine. And if they want to have more density, they can do it. Like if they want someone to see the ship, they can do that. Like if they're here, around here, they can create more density, and then they can just leave that density and move through these other frequencies. Just they can like wink in and out of all these dimensions.
So do you think changing from this dimension to another dimension, and then once you're in that dimension, you can come out anywhere in this dimension? Is that the key to travel, do you think? Or
Well,
not?
I'm sure there's more to it, but when I was on the ship, and what they taught me was setting intention is really important with a ship, because they're one. They're all one mind, and all they need to do is set that intention, which is a frequency, and then the ship and the star beings can be wherever they want to be. Again, faster than we can even imagine. They like kind of can hyper jump through the dimensions and that.
Sounds like they're so far beyond us that we've got a long ways to go to catch up.
Yeah, it's not linear. It's really not linear. So
when was the first time you ever spoke the light language, or any light language? Do you remember?
Yeah. When I was on the ship, starting around the age of 3, I started speaking light language there. And so on the walls of the ship, there aren't really walls on the ship because it's holographic, but there are light codes on the ship, and they're light, and I used to stick my fingers through them and had a great time. And the light language codes would like come off the walls and dance with me, and what they were doing was raising my frequency, and they were dancing through all of my bodies. And actually, I'll show you this. This was on the ship I was on. I have lots of races who give me transmissions, but this was on the wall of the ship that I was on. And so these light codes are for balance and harmony. And I do a lot of these codes, and have for many years, and have them at my site and that for people to check out and that. But they're very powerful. Just one symbol or one code can carry volumes of information. And so again, these codes are multidimensional. They're not linear. They look linear on the paper, but they really act in a multi-dimensional way. And a lot of people I work with the light language will purchase these and use them for healing. You can put them on your body, or if they hang them up in their homes, they actually fill the whole house because they're multidimensional. So,
the first time you spoke, okay, so you mentioned how you interacted with light when you first were learning it, and when you started speaking it, do you remember what you said the very first time you ever spoke it?
Oh, probably not, because well, the different beings, even though we communicated telepathically, they all have their own, we could say their own star language. So I learned the star languages, and I speak a lot of those star languages now. I also call them light star languages or just light language sometime because they're light. It's speaking light. And the light language is, we could say, the voice of creation, or we could actually say they're geometric designs. So I remember speaking with all the different star beings on the ship in various star light languages, and so
sometimes they're telepathic, but sometimes they actually speak.
Well, they're speaking telepathically.
Oh, okay.
I'm the one who can speak it out loud, since I am,
So they don't need to speak it out loud. They speak it telepathically, and
Correct.
you speak it out loud for us because we don't speak telepathically.
Right.
Okay. And I remember you speaking it on your interview with the stuntman with the long hair.
Ruben
Langdon had a moment. When you were on Ruben Langdon's show, the reason why I thought it was a day ago because he just posted it yesterday.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So anyway, I remember you speaking it on there, and I've seen you speak it previous to that also. You want to speak some now?
Sure, I can see what wants to come through. I just let through, whatever comes through. And I wanted to say too, before I speak, that the beautiful thing about light codes and language is it bypasses the mind and ego. And that's part of the beauty of it, because humans get too caught in mind ego stuff. And so the light language codes actually move through all the cells, moves through the blueprint, our entire aura, and can really help us release old patterns, and raises our frequencies, so that and we are actually coded for this, because in what we refer to as the junk DNA, we are programmed to speak light language. So I just wanted to share that before I speak.
Sure.
Speak the light language.
Thank you for sharing that. That was important.
Sure. Okay. Usala kia kale kiria tamahala, usura oreitariata, umahala hola kia korotara naha, usukuria tananahaya, usuotu anaya ke, iniki kia kakaya natai, umaha sukura, iata leikia to suro korota, ieta umata asana, Ushana koke oloka anikiki kamakare ira kalekta plaki ilakata ina tatisiki kiyana halaye umalo koye ulai otale tisita nahaya umakari kikiya nahai pokoro koro mahale usuta olata ushi umakarata Umakarieta, umakari unana karieta, usana.
So what did you say?
Well, first of all, I don't try and interpret everything I say, because that's going back to mind ego. But sometimes they do, often they do come through and share with me what they are saying. So actually this transmission was from the Pleiadians, and so they were bringing through actually a message about sending blessings to Earth, to all people, and bringing people into a place of peace and into their hearts. So actually, I didn't plan this, that just came through, but I do have this Pleiadian transmission that I drew many, many, many years ago. It's just beautiful. And this transmission on paper is an activation for peace. So we can use this to bring ourselves into a peaceful place. And we can also use it to speak light language, or just set our intentions for peace throughout the world or throughout the cosmos.
So when you're in any of the 7 alternative selves that are you, do you have a name in each of those 7 selves, a different name? 7 different names?
Yes. Yeah, I call them frequencies, but yeah, you could think of them as names. But yes.
But can you speak them as in, I mean, is there, is a frequency is not a name, and a name is not a frequency. A name could be considered a frequency, but it's
right.
My point is that, do you have a name that you can speak now for each of those 7 being other selves of yours?
I don't have all of them actually in my mind, so.
Oh, that's fine. I mean,
yeah. So I and I kind of like to keep those to myself because they're very sacred.
They could be used against you for some reason.
Yeah. So
I didn't understand. You know, I guess I should have figured that out, because
right.
The dark forces don't like you to know their names, because you can use their name to get them to move on, or
right.
that sort of thing. I'm sure you could do something bad with a name, just like you could do something good with a name.
Yeah, it's just not preferable to do, and I don't carry all of them in my mind. I have a couple key ones, but yeah, I just don't really share those. They are sacred. So
I understand.
Yeah.
So, do you wish to? What would you like to, if I gave you the time to speak about anything that you've done or experienced or do with your therapy or anything? Let's see. I know I have your questions here that you gave me. Okay, so how were you created as a hybrid? Is that the injection? Was that
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've already talked about your experiences on the ship. And your question was, do you communicate with the races on the ship telepathically? You've already given the answer to that. And how long have you been speaking light languages? You've answered that. You've also shared a light language. So what does light language do for people again? It activates them.
Light language can do many things, and light language can be spoken. It could be done through toning. You probably saw me using my hands, so we can speak it through our hands and fingers as well. We can dance it. So there's lots of different forms that light language can be expressed in. What I love about light language is it's very joyful. And people I work with the light language in sessions tell me how much joy it brings them. and it can help with healing. I've had a number of people who have had healings through the light language, and it helps us to become one. It helps us to release, as I was talking about, old patterns. That's from this life and other lives. It also helps our multidimensional selves to become more aligned. It aligns our chakras, and it can, heal us emotionally, physically, psychically, psychologically, in those ways. And what's beautiful about it is we set an intention for the light codes to work with us. And when we do that, then they work with us like they literally, they come off the paper energetically and work with our bodies. And so it helps align us with our authentic self. It helps us to be in our hearts, which is very important these days. One of the key, some of the key messages from the star beings I've communicated with are, for us to remember that we're all one, to remember to live from the heart, and to keep things simple. And those are some of the key messages that the star beings have shared with me for a very, very long time. So with the light language, it's very simple. There's not a lot of thinking to it or taking steps. Again, it's not linear. And a lot of people globally are now speaking light language. I do believe it's part of our next evolutionary step, because again, it bypasses the mind ego, helps us to get in touch with our soul, our heart. We can also speak the light language, light codes of our soul or of other selves, other star being selves, or, that we can actually bring all of that through and speak it, which really enhances our immune system. And it really can do amazing things. It's also really helpful for psychic protection.
So what's the key message from the star beings?
Well, we're all one. We're all one. And they are us, we are them, we are them. There is no other. But people don't typically think that way. So it's just that they have a more evolved understanding. They truly know we're all one. They get that energetically. Humans, I don't think really get that too much. Humans think of themselves as being separate, and that, they don't realize that someone that they might be looking at across the street is really an aspect of them in terms of being all one. We're all one energy. If we all drop our bodies, we're all light. So we're one light.
So you had some Thanksgiving experiences with the aliens?
Yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, and it was in 2013, and the star beings communicated with me and asked me to go outside around midnight. It was snowy and cold. And so I went outside and saw 7 starships in the sky around, and my house and that. And I write about this, go into a lot of detail in my book because it was just an amazing experiences. And then there was a portal above my house that a craft just flew out of and flew right over me and shined light in my eyes. It was like just above the tree in my backyard, and moved on at a speed that, of course, is indescribable. And so they asked me if I wanted to go on to a mothership after this. This is a period of like 2 weeks. And so I said, yeah, you know me. That's not something I'm going to turn down. And so a scout ship came. I mean, I looked out the window, saw the scout ship. I felt like I was in a movie. And I was like waving my arms saying, here I am. I didn't want them to forget me or something. And then they told me to lay down, and then I was just gone. And then on the mothership, it was really wonderful. I got to see a lot of star beings that I haven't seen for a while, or maybe haven't seen for a number of lifetimes. And so, there's different rituals with different cultures, with different star cultures. So there was one being who kind of looked like a warthog, standing in front of me, and he was looking at me a little funny, and I was looking at him a little funny. And then he kind of sniffed around my face and that, and then he recognized me, and then I recognized him. So that's why it's always important to look into someone's heart and the being, the look beyond what they look like. And so then we bowed to each other. That was the ritual. But then there was a whole council of beings from all different star galaxies having a meeting. And I was sitting at the table with the council, this incredible round room on the ship with a beautiful spiral, like crystalline spiral in the middle, that allowed everyone to just understand each other instantly. And so they were talking about different parts of the star system, what was going on, what wasn't, kind of like the United Nations almost, and discussing Earth and other quadrants throughout, the cosmos. So that was, I remembered that, and I had shape-shifted after I went on the ship, and then I shape-shifted into some other forms when I was on the ship. And they did a number of surgeries on me, which I was aware of. Sometimes star beings will give screen memories so that someone doesn't remember what's happened, and they're trying to protect them. And so, but I had said to them, forget that, I can see you, forget the screen memories, I don't need them. So I watched them use lasers in my eyes and some other things that I asked for healing for. So I had like some arthritis in my hands, and that went away. And then when I came back, I usually wear glasses being at the computer. And so I put my glasses on and I couldn't see well. And then I took my glasses off and I could see the screen perfectly. So they had healed my eyes. I mean, my vision had changed. So it was an amazing experience. And this went through a 14-day period. I had a friend come over who both she and I were taking photos of a lot of things that were happening, and because the electromagnetic fields had totally shifted around my whole house. And so she was a Reiki master, and she came to my house and she goes, "Oh my gosh, you know, do you get the frequencies that are going on here?" And I'm going, "Yeah, I'm living in them." So we were laughing about that. But overnight, grass grew up about 4 to 5 inches overnight through snow, and had like little crop circle around my house, symbols in the snow. And I had a statue of an owl where it changed the molecular structure on the wing of the owl that had been scallops like a wing, and now it's just a round kind of impression. So it's just like all this energy just shifted, all these things, crystals were moving around my house by themselves. And I set some crystals on a table and they just disappeared. And I heard this voice say, "Look under your bed," and they were under my bed. So this went on for months and months. And so that the experiences were very spiritual for me, and helped me understand more about my life, giving me more answers about all of this. And also they did things like when they took me on the mothership, when I came back, I just felt really dragged out. Well, when you're in another dimension where there's no time or space and you come back here into this density, I just felt so dragged out and was disoriented with time. And it was 2 weeks later, my friend who came over to take photos that we were taking together, we were on the phone talking, and I said, "What a crazy 3 days." And she got really quiet. And she said, "Jacquelin, it's been 2 weeks." I had no idea that 2 weeks had passed. So, you know, it took me a while to process all this and integrate it in a way that made sense. And then I decided eventually to write a book about it. They wanted me to, but I wanted to share my experiences, hoping that they might, support and help others who have had maybe similar experiences. And then one night, well, they asked me before they came, but there were like 30 beings. They were like about 3 feet tall. They were gray color. And they said, "Can we come to your house and visit you?" And I said, "Yeah." So there was a portal in my basement. So they came through the portal, and they were here. So they were here like quasi-physically. So I could feel them and sort of see them, but it wasn't density like, this density here. And it was just one of the most fun evenings of my life, because they are very curious, just like we're wanting to learn more about star beings. They're wanting to learn more about humans. So they were like all over my house, having a great time, and enjoying everything. They have the ability to absorb food and drink through their hands and feet. So they asked me to put out, I think I put out Coke or something and some cookies and that. So they were like absorbing it. They were able to have that experience that normally, they wouldn't be able to have. So it was great fun. And, they would touch my hair and that, and which was fine with me. They were very childlike. And a number of the star beings I meet are very childlike. They're not childish, but they're childlike and like to play, which is important in terms of the evolutionary process as well. Creativity and play are a part of the evolutionary process. So they spent, a little time here, and then they just all left through the portal. And, they thanked me for letting them come in, and it was really wonderful. It was really wonderful. I call it my pajama party because it was so much fun. And a woman across the street, who is a psychic, she, after all this happened and that, she said she looked out her living room window and there was a gray being looking in at her, with the big black eyes. And she said, she goes, Jacquelin lives across the street. So that was great fun. She was telling this being that I lived over here, not there. So
she's pointing them in the right direction. Go that way.
That's right. That's right. I mean, and just had, amazing experiences, and it changed, some new parts of my soul came in, some left, so there was like soul exchange going on at the same time. So it was, I considered a spiritual experience. And also with that, I mean, I was doing a lot of traveling through time, and I was just looking through my book here, because also I had on the ship when I was a child, I had I'll call him my nanny, who was an Arcturian Zeta, and he kind of took care of me on the ship, and he was blue, and we used to play with balls of light and practice telepathy and do things like that. So when these Thanksgiving experiences happened, I was outside and I saw this being standing behind this tree. He was would come out and then go back. And he was clearly blue. I could see him clearly. He was mostly physical. And so I was like, well, come on out, and so he kept jumping back and forth. He was kind of shy. And then I realized later on, here it was my nanny from the ship, who I used to call Sandman. And that was just a very moving experience for me to be able to see him.
So it brought back some fond memories.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And so, and again, so many things were happening around my house. I had implants in me, so they actually removed a number of implants from me because they had used them to block certain memories, which they'll do sometimes with implants. And so 4 or 5 implants came out of me within 2 weeks. And in the book, I have photos of two of those types of implants. I had a crystal one And when they brought me back from the ship, I found this tiny little crystal on my bed, and I knew right away what it was. That had been an implant, and they were using that to adjust my frequency when I had gone onto the mothership. And then another implant. My friend was over here. We were going through the photos after all of this had happened, and we were just sitting here, and this thing came out of my ear and jumped and landed right in front on my desk in front of my computer. And I like screamed, and we both were like, what the heck is this, you know? And then we both looked at it and go, oh my God, it's an implant. So it was, I actually had someone look at it who's an expert with implants, and he said it was an organic implant. They call it a honeycomb implant. And so, you know, it just all these incredible, amazing experiences that I've had the opportunity to experience. And some people are very afraid of implants and think they need to get them out. But a lot of implants are used for healing for people. And out of fear, they want to get rid of them, but that's not always a good thing to do. And I'm not saying all of them are that way, but I haven't had experiences with a negative implant being removed physically from me.
So one lady I'm in contact with, I haven't interviewed her yet, but she's going for a degree in consciousness, and she was interviewed by Mr. Gray.
Oh yeah,
Yannick Alman, and whenever he asked her about her aliens, instead of talking about aliens, she starts talking about consciousness because she's afraid to lose her college connections by talking about aliens. She thinks that will somehow possibly discredit her, so she's talked about consciousness instead on the show. But the only reason I brought her up is because she mentioned a particular fairly famous abductee who has had implants, and she said, I won't mention his name because of what I'm going to say about him. She said that he had cancer and that the aliens had healed it. And the only reason I brought that up is because, you know, John Yost, you know who that is, right?
John Yost?
Uh-huh.
No, I don't know him.
Okay, so he's another fairly well-known abductee, and he is dying of cancer. And I figured if she knows some aliens that are healing cancer, that maybe they could go pick. And he's an abductee, so he's got some star beings taking him. And so I guess if he's spending a lot of money to try to get healed from cancer. So I figured I'd put the word out to people who have connections with star beings that he'd like somebody to come by and heal his cancer, just like the other fellow whose name I won't mention because of obvious reasons. So I'll just give you that information, and you can do with it what you will. And
I will definitely say prayers. Yeah.
Okay. So I think I've asked you everything. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, I think I've asked you all of your questions that you gave me. Is there any? Okay, so you're in touch. You've been in touch with 80. That's what you said on Ruben Langdon's show. You said you had you have connections with 80 different races. Is that true?
Yeah, and some of them are just, I call them more of acquaintances. They can come when I need them in past lives and like want me to remember different symbols, or they'll come to me in dreams. But I'm not actively trying to communicate with 80 races. But yeah, I have had many, many, many races, different kinds of star races come to me.
So how many of your past lives do you remember? Any?
Oh, I remember quite a few of them. It's pretty easy for me to remember my past lives. I think part of it, what makes it easier for me is being a hypnotherapist. But, you know, I remember I've been a star being many more lifetimes than I have than being here on Earth. And so, and I just process the past lives that come, or ask for what I need to know, or clear out, or whatever.
So is there any particular past life that you remember that was sort of, if I asked you to relate one of your past lives, is there one that comes to mind that was more memorable than others?
Not really. You know, I mean, I kind of process them and then just release them.
Okay, so
So
you said that a lot of times you go, you travel out of your body or into other dimensions or planes. So you do that every day or every other day, or how often do you go traveling?
it just depends on what's happening. And, you know, also, I mean, when we think about it, you know, if I think about it, if I focus that I want to communicate with beings on a planet or a star, it's pretty instant for me. And then I just communicate with them. So it's like, because we're all one and we're all connected, it doesn't need to take much time. And in that regard, it's really here. It's in my consciousness. So it's like I'm not astral traveling out there. I'm just co-conscious of the connection.
You're just jumping from space to space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you're pulling it here.
I'm pulling it here too. It's kind of both. Yeah, both for me. So.
And so, is there any experience that you've had like that may be recent or more memorable or anything? Is there any travel experience, other dimension experience that is that comes to mind that's interesting that you'd like to relate?
Oh my gosh, well, all the Thanksgiving experiences were amazing. I mean, I was in and out of my body for 2 weeks, and I had like 3 days of missing time. So I was gone a lot, but I got to visit, go home to my original star family, to where they're from, and visit with them, which was really great fun to do that, and go back to my original home.
So is there anything about a past life or other self of you that, like, okay, so you meet beings that remind you of being on the ship. You meet beings that remind you of other lifetimes you've had. Is there a particular lifetime that, you know, you admit that you've had more star lives than you have.
Mm-hmm.
It means more to you than here. So is there any lifetime in another place that comes to mind that is some place that you really feel more home there than here? Is there something like that you could relate?
Well, as I was mentioning, going home to my original star origin race meant a lot to me. There, it's like this.
Which race is that?
It's a dimension. It's like a dimension. Well, it's called, my original star origin race is called Quabar, and that's kind of the frequency. That was my original star origin, and I've been communicating with them for many, many, many years, and so, but when I went home, I mean, there's like this beautiful ocean, 3 moons, 2 suns, and reconnecting with my family. They're etheric now. They've ascended. They're in energy form only now. But I can remember, you know, when they were evolving and they've never been in physical form or physical density, but in etheric form.
So a lot of people talk about mankind ascending, and it sounds like you went the other way. You started from a higher ascension and you came down here and got stuck with us. So
Well,
it's
yeah,
like you went the opposite direction.
One could look at it that way, right? Yeah, my soul chose to be here, and some days I ask my soul, what were you thinking? But Earth is beautiful, and I love the Earth, and you know, that's a lot of what keeps me here, is the beauty of Earth and nature, and a lot of good people in this world, and you know, I came here to be of help, to help awaken people like a lot of people have, and to be that bridge.
So I heard you. I remember you saying on Ruben Langna's show that the fairies, you mentioned about those, and you said you go to a park and there's a tree, and fairies around the tree.
Yeah.
And they do a lot with nature. And is there any fairy information, knowledge, besides what I've just stated, that you care to?
Well, I still visit that place almost every day, you know, when it's spring and summer and fall. And every day I communicate with the fairies and the elves and the gnomes. And they're incredible. They do an incredible service here in terms of helping trees grow, and flowers and bushes, and all of nature. So I always have a great respect and honor for the fairies, and I've also been in their dimension, and it's just incredible. It's like all these bright neon colors. It's lush. It's beautiful. I don't know what I would compare it to. Maybe something like Hawaii, but it much more so in terms of colors and all kinds of beings there. Beings who we think are mythical are real, who are there. And I always have a hard time leaving when I visit them, because it's just so magnificent and alive, kind of like a Walt Disney movie.
So what form are you when you're in their dimension? What form are you, a human, or what are you when you're in their dimension?
When I visit them, I'm just energy. I'm just in my energy body.
So you're a point of awareness.
Yes, yes.
But are you a light body or just straight a point of awareness?
I would say light body.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since you've been doing hypnotherapy for 20 years, have you ever had an occasion to remove attaching spirits from your clients?
Yeah. I did quite a bit of that work many years ago, and I stopped doing the work. It wasn't work I wanted to be involved in because of the energies. And it's concerns for safety, and it's very hard work. It's very demanding work, and I just decided that's not where I wanted to put my energy anymore. I really wanted to put it into the light, and to move more into working with light language and experiencers where I felt that's what I was meant to do.
So what would you tell people who have attaching spirits? What would you say to those people?
Find someone who can help them have, to get them to get the spirits detached and to move on. Archangel Michael is always a great one to call in because he does that work for people. They could call Archangel Michael in, ask Archangel Michael to remove anything. I always say if that's not of the Christ light, to bind it up and take it into the light. But some people, depending on what's going on with them, have a harder, might have a harder time doing that on their own. So it's kind of good to find someone who knows what they're doing with that. But yeah, I did that for many years and did ghost busting in houses and all that.
Oh, so you did house clearings?
Yeah. But I don't now.
Are there any experiences that you have not yet gone over that you feel you'd like to speak about?
Oh gosh. Well, I think I've actually hit upon most of them. I was just looking through my book here. I think, the important thing for experiencers to understand is that their soul chose to have the experiences. And sometimes there can be misperceptions about that in terms of someone on a ship might think they're being harmed, but the star beings are actually trying to help heal them. I'm not saying that's always the case, but that certainly can happen. And so, my intention, like with writing my book and talking about all this, is to help support people in a way, and my hope is to shift the paradigm away from fear and into a place of deeper understanding that their souls chose the experiences and that there might be a different perspective, different ways of viewing them.
So a lot of people believe that the forces that rule Earth are alien, that those are not necessarily positive forces. And they say things like, well, when you get off the planet, reptilians are not bad, but the reptilians on the planet are not so good. So do you have any thoughts about who runs planet Earth and anything along those lines? Does that bring anything to mind?
Yeah, I don't like the stereotype because I know a number of reptilians who are, good people who have good intentions. So I don't group all reptilians together, but are there those who are not, we could say, so awake or evolved? Yeah, for sure.
Do you think that Earth itself is, do you buy into the notion that Earth is run by negative forces? Is that true for you, or is not true, or how do you feel about that notion?
I do think there are lower frequency energies, beings, definitely, who are still wanting to have control and to keep humanity stunted in their evolutionary process. But what we need to remember also is that humanity, and I think humanity is doing this now, is to awaken, to be more conscious that the collective makes choices. And so I think there's that component as well. We're in a time where humanity is growing up and maturing more to understand these things and more open than they were, which I think is a great step forward with all of this.
So how do you think this war with Mr. Putin will end? Can you see the future, or do you have any feelings about how it will end?
Kind of the point of, for me, the point of it, of ascension that's talked about and all that, is to live in the moment, to be right here, right now. And the future, there's all these different timelines, and that's going to be determined by the collective of what humanity decides. And it's, there's nothing set in stone. We don't know. It's just all about what the collective continues to decide, how awake they are.
So it can go in any direction.
Yes, I believe that. Yeah.
And it seems like we've gone over just about everything.
Yeah.
It seems like we've hit on all the points. Do you, is there anything you want to say to promote your brand, or your website is jacquelinsmith.com, correct?
Yes. And I wanted to share that I have a couple books, Star Origins and Wisdom of Animals.
Hold it up higher, a little bit higher. Yeah. So I guess at the bottom to the title, Star Origins and Wisdom of Animals, talks with animal souls. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, these beings came to me, asked me to write this book, and they just give awesome information. And then this book is on animal communication. And this gives step-by-step on how to communicate with animals, and gives tons of cases that I've worked with through the years. And then again, my newest book,
Being in the Mirror.
Star Being in the Mirror. And so these are all available at Amazon, or if someone purchases them at my site, I'll autograph them and get them in the mail to them. And wanted to mention there are some free light language activations at my site that people can listen to. There's also a free ebook on Mantis beings, and also there's an e-course on how to communicate with other star beings, because a lot of people are interested in that, and lots of other things at my site as well. I'm getting ready to put some new things on, new audios on with light language and star music that came through. So I'm getting ready to get those on hopefully next week. And those came from the interdimensional dolphins.
So one lady I interviewed a while back, she said that she was on a ship one time, and her, I don't know if it was a cat or a dog, she had a pet, and when she was on the ship, her pet was with her in another form, and she knew her pet, there was something she needed to do on the ship to help another human that was on the ship, and her pet understood in this other form as the other being what to do far better than she did. So she was making the point out that animals are not less than we are, and you made that point out on Reuben Langdon's show that
absolutely,
that
yeah,
animals are not less than humans in any shape or form. So that is your truth, yes?
yes, definitely. You know, we're all in different forms, but we all have souls. And so they're not lesser. We're all equal.
And is there anything you want to say to the audience before we end the show?
No, I just thank you, Mike, for having me on. It's been a wonderful pleasure being able to share this information, and I hope people do, again, check out my website, www.jacquelinsmith.com. And by the way, Jacquelin does not have an E at the end of it. A lot of people want to spell it with an E, which is fine, but yeah, it's been great fun.
JACQUELIN, no E.
Correct.
Smith.com. Yeah. All right, well, let me go ahead and end the show, end the recording, and we'll let you get back to your evening. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Mike.
If you ever want to come back and talk about anything in particular, feel free to let me know.
Okay, well, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure meeting you, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about these things.
Thank you for being on the show. Here we go.